Hey there, how's it going? Davidinark here, back with another Driving with Dave. That's right, it's been a while since like before Christmas break. So just thought I'd pop in, see what's up, see how you're doing, see how things are going. It is, as I'm recording this on this Friday, it's National Peanut Butter Day in America. I'm curious, for those of you that watch from other countries, is peanut butter a big thing wherever you are? And then if you are in America, you have to ask the question, what is your favorite kind of peanut butter? Creamy or crunchy? I'm a crunchy person, usually. I don't know. There's something about having some texture in there, little crunch action. But I was listening to the radio, which is part of what prompted me to record this in the first place. And there was a child that had called into the radio station. Yes, I'm old. I still listen to the radio. Anyway, they said that they had a sleepover for a birthday party, and they combined peanut butter, jelly, pickles, and hot dogs. Now, I've heard of people doing the peanut butter jelly pickle thing. I personally have never tried that. I can't imagine. Cannot. But then to add hot dogs to the mix, that's kids. Kids will try, well, some kids. Well, I'll tell you what, I was going to say kids will try anything. They won't. They will if it's like nasty and not good for you. That's what they'll do. Oh my gosh. I can't say I've ever thought, ever, even when I was a kid, of that particular combination. So anyway, I would love to hear some peanut butter concoctions that you come up with, because why not? So changing subjects, one of the things that I have absolutely loved seeing, those of you that are in the deep south that are getting snow for the first time in like 50 or more years, I'm the joy and the playing around and frankly some of the creativity. It's been so fun to watch. I watched a video of this woman, and she's like 84 years old, and she had never seen snow ever, or at least not lived where there was snow. And so, I think she said that was the first time she'd ever seen it, in real life. And she, whoever was with her, recorded her plopping down and making a snow angel. And I don't know, man. That is so cool. So I know it's a pain, and I know there've been wrecks and traffic is a mess and all that, but I hope you're enjoying the snow that you're getting, because it's probably for most folks it's a once in a lifetime thing. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun watching, and some of the creative ways to go sledding, and I don't necessarily mean what people are using to go sledding. When I was a kid growing up around Pittsburgh, we used, whatever we could find, whether it was, a refrigerator box or a piece of corrugated tin, or I don't even remember, whatever we used. And so I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff. Now, I did see there was a kid who was using a 6-foot plastic table with the folding legs upside down, sitting on it and holding on to the legs. That's pretty creative in my book. But one of the best ones is that someone had taken an inner tube that you normally tow behind a boat. Now that's not unusual, especially here in the South where I am, not necessarily deep South, but in the South. Frankly, that's a redneck thing no matter where you go. You hook an inner tube to a four-wheeler and whoo, off you go, or the back of a pickup truck or whatever. So that wasn't the unusual part. What I found so creative was that this person had hooked the rope, the tie rope, excuse me, the tow rope, to a spindle, and then plugged the spindle into a drill. So when the kids went flying down the hill in the inner tube and the rope got to the end, then you just hit the drill and it automatically wound itself and brought the inner tube back up the hill. That is ingenuity right there. That's necessity, the mother of invention. I'm not going to stand here all day pulling a rope up. No, we're going to use a drill, because there you go. But One of the other things I didn't even think about, I saw somebody had posted some pictures. In Florida, if you're not familiar, a lot of people in Florida have swimming pools behind their house. And they have these, what's the word I'm looking for? Screens. Everything is screened in because of the mosquitoes are, the size of Texas and Florida. So to keep the mosquitoes out and whatever else, critters and gators and whatever else, they have everything is screened in. Well, the snow was putting so much weight onto these screened in porches that it was starting to collapse the screen, because there's usually not much weight involved. So, they're not built to withstand 6 inches of snow, as are most things not built to withstand 6 inches of snow, especially, in the South, or at least, below a particular, is that latitude? Yes, right. Longitude goes long, latitude goes sideways. I don't know. Anyway, it's been a while since I've done any kind of map reading. Yeah, just some of the creative things that folks have done. And so, again, hey, let me know down in the comments if you're in that area, and or just whenever you've had snow, what are some of the creative things you've done snow-wise? Now, I will say one of the things I've also seen is one of the awful side effects of temperatures falling so quickly and people not being accustomed to it are vehicles that have, and generally it's smaller rear windows, but where they turn on the rear defrost and that rear defroster heats up, and it heats up quickly enough that it causes the glass to expand. Heat up, it expands beyond the capabilities of the mechanism that holds the windows in place, and bam, the windows are shattering in the back. So you got to be careful of that. That happens especially in little crossover SUVs and just smaller SUVs in general. So yeah, that's not good. That's not fun at all when something like that happens. So here where I live, we didn't get a lot of snow. Now, parts of the state got a lot of snow, but we did not. We got mostly ice, and the last few days we've been down in the teens at night, so that's not fun. But hey, you do what you got to do and monitor and adjust. Knock on some wood. No busted pipes at this point from me or my family. So that's always a plus in that regard. I was trying to think. So, changing subjects once again. This is, I told you, it's random. It's whatever pops in my head. So, when you were either younger or now, whatever age you are, if you are into any of the retro gaming type stuff, especially like if you're into, say, playing Commodore 64 games or Atari 2600 games, or in television, or I don't care, Nintendo, PS1, whatever. What were some of your favorite games? I was watching, now of course her name's going to be Sayaka, or is it Sakaya? Whichever way, I can't remember, and I apologize to you. I don't think she watches me, but anyway, but she was talking about some of her favorite Commodore 64 games, and that got me to thinking, what were some of my favorite games on the Commodore 64 growing up. And man, I gotta tell you, there were so many. Of course, that was the first computer I ever owned. I was very blessed. My parents worked very hard, and when the Commodore came out, when the 64 came out that summer of '82, I had expressed interest back then, and so they saved all the way up through Christmas, and I got one for Christmas. And that's all I got was the Commodore 64, because in those days, the Commodore 64 was like $229 or somewhere around there. The disk drive itself cost just as much. The tape drive wasn't as much, but still wasn't cheap. So I would get Compute magazine, or Compute's Gazette, I guess, and Ahoy and something else, and they had codes, programs you could type in, and I would sit there all day typing in a program, and then I'd have to leave it on and running because I had no way to save it. So those kinds of things were fun, but I digress often. But then once I did get a cassette, and then ultimately a 1541 drive, and that just completely opened up the world of possibilities for me. I mean, I can remember games like, and now this is not necessarily in chronological order, okay? This is just me remembering games, but there were games like Spy versus Spy, Mission Impossible, those kind of stick out. A game that really sticks out in my head is called Mule, M-U-L-E, and it was a multiplayer. I mean, you could play with just computer, but generally you played with your friends, and it was an economics and kind of I don't know what is the word for that, because it's you got these plots of, there was a planet, and each player each round you would pick a plot of land, and you tried to mine and you could either grow food, or you get access to I think it's called iridium, or whatever. Anyway, you would cash stuff in, and then you could upgrade, and you could trade with you would buy and sell almost like commodities among your friends to try to help and or dominate. But the game was made up so that if one player was dominating and kind of being selfish about it, they would get punished. And that just, I don't know, so cool. Probably my all-time favorite game for the Commodore 64 was Little Computer People. And if you're not familiar with that, I wholeheartely recommend checking it out. I may have done a video or two about it, and I actually have a project that I've been working on for a couple of years, off and on, about Little Computer People. But it was such a revolutionary concept that you would have this little person living inside the computer. So when I think the official name was House on a Disk. You would put it in, and this house would come up, and somebody would move in. And the kicker is that not every single time. There were obviously a limited number of combinations, but for the most part, you would get a different person than your friends would get. And not only would it be a different looking character, they would have a different name. So there's 255 of the different possible character names. And then I'm not real sure about the combinations, but it was, and the way they did it, I'll tell you one thing. There are several videos, but if you go look at a video on how Activision and David Crane did the unique serial numbers for the different Little Computer People, that process, especially for, back in the 80s, was absolutely crazy that they came up with that. But absolutely love Little Computer People. Of Ghostbusters, especially because you can hit the space bar. Ghostbusters! Oh, so cool, so much fun. Zaxxon. One of the things I loved about Zaxxon is a pseudo 3D isometric spacecraft shooter. And so you went at this angle on the screen, and you could go up, down, left, right. And so you had to you had to know your height, you had to know where you were in position. That one was crazy. I mean, and then there was one called Sky Fox or Star Fox, one of the two, and that game, it took forever to load, but it was like playing a cartoon for us in those days. Very, very cool. Man, such a cool game. So I'm kind of curious, what are some of the games that you remember from your early days of playing games, or even now, what are some of your favorite kind of retro games? We did have an Atari before my Commodore 64. We had an Atari 2600, and well, did we? Yeah, we did. I was going to say, did we have one? Yeah, so we had an Atari 2600, and I remember playing games. I don't remember many that really stick out. Pitfall. I don't know. I'd have to go back and think on that one. I'll be a Pitfall. I know we played Pac-Man, as awful as it was on the Atari 2600 version. Never played E.T. Never had E.T. Oh, we did have Empire Strikes Back with the AT-ATs or AT-ATs, depending on your train of thought there. But very, very cool. We later were able to get an Intellivision, and that Intellivision just was absolutely incredible. I loved it. I can't think of a game on Intellivision I didn't like. Seriously, so much fun, especially the games they translated from arcade games into Intellivision, because for me at the time, those were like the closest to the coin ops that I had ever seen. Which is funny, because even at the time, they really weren't. The Intellivision versions weren't as close as some of the other systems of the time. But, hey, you go by your own experience and what you know and what you see. And so, we had Donkey Kong and Burger Time. And Burger Time is one of my favorite all-time coin op ports, whatever. I'll play Burger Time, on break at the office. I'll, just fire up a retro website and play Burger Time, because, I don't know, I like it. I think it's cool. So, which also reminds me, I don't know, what were some of your favorite coin op games? I mean, I played Qix, a lot. Weirdly, my favorite coin op game is probably one of the first ones that were out there, and I think it was called Sears Football or Atari Football or something, and it was just X's and O's, and you sat down across from the person you were playing, and it had a roller ball, and so you would use the roller ball and a button to select your play, and then you would roll the ball to move around the field. I thought that was awesome, and even now, I think it is such a cool, it's so simple, and yet was so interactive and competitive, and absolutely one of my favorite all-time coin-op games. So I don't know. Anyway, I've been rambling for quite a while, and it's about time for me to pull into the office. So thanks for coming along on my commute this morning. Hope things are going well. Let me know your answers to all the stuff that we talked about, and if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about or see on the channel, remember, leave that down in the comments section below. I'm Davidinark. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.